We have some emergency news breaking that Trump is crafting an executive order to declare a national emergency so that he can seize the voting process nationally, so that he can unconstitutionally take over elections that are supposed to be run by the states and localities. Look at this reporting. Extremely dangerous.
George, well, we know that the president is considering mandating stricter voting rules ahead of the midterms, and now we have learned that the president has reviewed this draft executive order, which would declare a national emergency, then giving him sweeping power over voting. Sources say a group of pro-Trump attorneys are urging the president to sign this 17-page draft order, which claims without evidence that China interfered in the 2020 election, arguing that that then justifies declaring a national emergency that would then allow the president to mandate voter ID, hand-counted ballots, and ban mail-in ballots. Now, it's not clear if the president is actually going to act on this proposal, but he has reviewed it, and we do know that he is considering taking executive action, posting recently, quote, "There will be voter ID for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not." But again, George, the Constitution gives states, not the president or the federal government, the power to run elections.
Right.
Of course. And do you think, number one, Trump sat with Putin, and whenever evidence was presented of Putin's actual attempt to interfere in our election, Trump said, "I don't know. I trust Vlad. I think he didn't do it. He told me he didn't do it. Gave me a handy-mandy. I believe him." And then
You're my daddy.
So doesn't believe it when we actually have evidence. Then is saying, without presenting evidence because of China's interference in the 2020 election, that gives him emergency authority to take over unconstitutionally elections. Which, just so you know, one of the brilliance of our systems is, think about how difficult it would be to steal an election when there's all of these different states running it independently, and then all the way down to the county, and then the specific voting locations. It's so disseminated, maybe, and broken up, that how would you logistically steal an election? It's so difficult. But now wonder how much easier it would be if one entity organized and ran the entire process, and that entity was the guy who wants an election to go a certain way. That way we put that in the bad category. States running it, good category, just for simple terms. And is it the case that China doesn't do anything to try to influence U.S. elections? No. All these big powers are trying to, and usually they're like, let's help Trump because then America will fall apart. I don't know why they think that. We're doing great. It didn't work, Putin. It didn't work. But that doesn't mean that you get to destroy a critical part of our democratic republic. Trump reportedly mulling plan to declare national emergency, paving way for major power grab. Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video. Psychotic. Then, you want to talk about psychotic? The Pentagon is clashing with a tech company, Anthropic, because the Claude AI model that Anthropic has, the Pentagon wants to use. Okay. But even with their ambition to make money, Anthropic's leadership was like, but we do have to have a couple safeguards if we're going to put the ink on this contract, which is you can't use our technology for mass surveillance, violating people's privacy rights, and you can't use it for autonomous weaponry, meaning like imagine ChatGPT, but a robot with a gun. Okay, we've seen how dumb ChatGPT can be sometimes. We don't want that in warfare right now. Okay, that's what they're saying. And it makes sense a little bit on a business front. Part of it's like, hey, good, they're standing up for safeguards. But also, you don't want to be responsible for what could end up being a massive scandal like mass surveillance. Anthropic on Thursday, but then the Pentagon's now threatening them and being like, no, we don't want those safeguards. I wonder why. Anthropic on Thursday said there has been virtually no progress on negotiations with the Pentagon, as the CEO said it could not accept what defense officials had labeled their final offer on AI safeguards. A deadline on Friday at 5:01 p.m. is fast approaching for Anthropic to let the Pentagon use this model, Claude, as it sees fit, or potentially face severe consequences. Yeah, so then Pete Hegseth is like, oh yeah, if you're going to make us have those safeguards, we might just come and force you to give us the technology. What kind of weird authoritarian shit is this? Hegseth threatened to invoke the Defense Production Act, like wartime, to compel Anthropic to provide this model without any restrictions, which would be on murky legal ground, they say. Freaky stuff, huh? Well, we might just seize it. Like how in wartime you would seize the production in factories for the output of weaponry and stuff. And these are the rules. This is all. No mass surveillance or autonomous weapons. Seems reasonable. I don't want Grok with a missile. Does that sound okay? I don't want it to be used for mass surveillance, and I don't want Grok with an atom bomb. Is that all right with everybody? No. According to Hegseth, it's not. And then the undersecretary, which I always love that title, it's like, what? What? Of War, Emil Michael said, it's a shame that Dario Amodei is a liar and has a god complex. He wants nothing more than to try to personally control the U.S. military and is okay putting our nation's safety at risk. The Department of War will always adhere to the law, but not bend to whims of any one for-profit tech company. To which, even on X, it was community noted, Anthropic's models have already been used extensively in mission-critical military applications, but the Department of War is now requiring that Anthropic allow its models to be used for autonomous weaponry and mass surveillance as well. Yeah, it's pretty clear what the stipulations are, Mr. Undersecretary. Why are you under the Secretary? What are you doing to Pete Hegseth if you're under him all the time?
No more dudes in dresses.
You have Jamil Hill saying, I don't think people fully appreciate what it says that a company that stands to gain millions is telling the government, even for us, this is too much. So right now you have the Pentagon going, we might seize your technology so we can use it for mass surveillance and autonomous weapons. And, we also want to, we may declare national emergency so that we can take over the election process and run it the way Trump sees fit, which would obviously be an attempt to suppress voting. Do you think if they took over voting in all the states, they would equally apply the rules? Do you think they would implement rules that disproportionately impact certain people? Do you think that they would do things that, happen to suppress certain populations' ability to vote? Or would it just be smooth sailing? I think they're going to have a bunch of groks with guns outside of the polling stations if we let this continue to get out of control. Then Sam Altman, who's a weird guy, even he's like, I don't think this is good.
I don't personally think the Pentagon should be threatening DPA against...
Dude, I get that you're insecure about your shoulders. We don't need that big of a suit to make your shoulders look bigger, brother. Okay, but hey, he's saying the right point here.
These companies, for all the differences I have with Anthropic, I mostly trust them as a company, and I think they really do care about safety, and I've been happy that they've been supporting our warfighters.
Yeah, I didn't hear what he said. I was too distracted, but good. I think so. And then, okay, you're thinking that's freaky, but at least if they were to get that technology to use for whatever they want without any safeguards that even tech moguls who just care about money are worried about, they're worried about them so much that they're willing to lose out on a bunch of money, which they almost never do. But what if you just give it to, I'm sure that the most competent people will be handling this. You know how we talked about the El Paso airspace being closed because of it was like a party balloon, but they thought it was a cartel drone? And so without properly communicating to the FAA, you had like the DHS getting this new laser technology, a Jewish space laser. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene would say, no, it was like a laser, anti-drone laser, and shot the balloon. And then they were like, oops, that wasn't a cartel drone. Well, now they actually did shoot down a drone. And hey, good job. oh, it was ours. They're like, finally, we get to use the laser. Pew, pew, pew. And then it's a DHS drone. So the U.S. military was like, we see a drone. Had to shut down other airspace over Fort Hancock. Texas. Fort Hancock has an airport? Good for them. I didn't know they had an airport. And they shot down, but it was a DHS drone. I mean, these are deeply out of control people. Speaking of out of control, we have another instance of, because of the actions of ICE, someone dying.
There is growing outrage today over the death of a nearly blind father who was dropped off by Border Patrol agents miles away from home and in the cold. Miral Amin Shah Alam was a Burmese refugee. His attorney says he was not only nearly blind, but spoke virtually no English. He had been reported missing by his family and then found dead a few miles away from where he'd been released after a 5-day search. His family says no one ever notified them that he'd been dropped off.
So you have ICE picking up this refugee who uses one of the walking sticks because he's almost fully blind. And they pick him up, take him somewhere, realize, we can't deport him. Legal refugee. And instead of taking him home or contacting someone to pick him up, they drop him off miles away from his home in the cold, and he ends up dying trying to get back home. And then they come out and lie. And they say, no, we dropped him off at a donut shop or coffee shop where he could get some warmth. It was closed, locked. Nurul Amin Shah Alam, nearly blind refugee from Burma who border agents dropped off at a donut shop Thursday and left to find his way home 5 miles away, has been found dead. And it seemed to be, or we're assuming, had something to do with being out in the cold with no way to get in contact with people. Brian Krasenstein says Trump's immigration officials picked up a blind refugee who walked with a walking stick last week in Buffalo. Super cold. Then after realizing he couldn't be deported, they dumped him 5 miles away from his home in the freezing cold. He died trying to make his way back to his house. From what we know now. That's the preliminary information. But then you have them coming out, the DHS, and saying, here are the facts. On February 19, 2026, Buffalo Police Department alerted Border Patrol about a non-citizen in their custody. Our agents confirmed that Mr. Shah Alam entered the United States as a refugee on December 24, 2024, and was not amenable to removal. Border Patrol agents offered him a courtesy ride, which he chose to accept, to a coffee shop determined to be a warm, safe location. So they tell this story, right? Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought. But then it's being fact-checked. The coffee shop in question was closed, resulting in a blind man being abandoned outside a closed business in the middle of the night in winter, which is neither safe nor warm. They just lied. Sam Stein saying still can't really process that Border Patrol made the decision to leave a nearly blind refugee outside a donut shop 5 miles from his house, and that he then, as could have been easily imagined, died, and that there likely won't be any accountability for this. And we have it on video, just so you know. You can see it's kind of difficult to tell, but this video confirms that their telling of the story was incorrect, and that this shop was closed, and that then he was left in the freezing cold at night. Completely disgusting. And as was referenced, it's really scary to assume there's not going to be accountability, but that can change, and we have to advocate for it.